The book of Genesis is considered one of these books that is outmoded, outdated, a sort of collection of fables and myths used by the primitives to sort of make sense of the world around them. But now that we're more scientifically enlightened or philosophically enlightened, we don't need what it says anymore. But when you begin to look at the truths and the profundity of what the book of Genesis actually says and the nuggets that are in there, I think you begin to see something that is really worth keeping in our day and age, especially, I would say, in our day and age. Consider a couple of things about what it means for human dignity. Now, this is important because one of the biggest moves today in society is what's called secular humanism. Humanism is the idea that human beings have value, we're special, we have some kind of intrinsic value in and of ourselves, as opposed to maybe other creatures or animals like plankton or mushrooms or something. That's humanism. But secular says that a secular humanism means that we have value without God. We don't need God to tell us that. Of course, that's a fundamental contradiction, because if we're just the flotsam and jetsam of the universe, we're sort of cosmic pollution, as one scientist puts it, or we're just here by accident, as others have said, well, then how exactly are we in some way special? What does humanism mean at that particular moment? Genesis actually tells the humanist that your quest for human dignity actually has a foundation. Think about what Genesis says. It says that we are created in God's image. In his image, he created them. Male and female, he created them in his image. First, you should see something. Someone is male, and they are created in his image in their maleness. So men are valuable. Someone is created in God's image in their femaleness, so the female is valuable. That's very important for our society today, because this idea of inequality amongst males and females is not a biblical idea, because every female bears God's image and therefore is just as valuable as every single male. And there is no quantitative or qualitative difference between the two. That's the first nugget you get right from the books of Genesis, right in Genesis chapter 1. But then you also see something interesting. God actually rarely names anything in his creation, but he gives names to man, to humanity. He gives humanity a name, which, as John Lennox has said in his book Against the Flow, signals to you something. He has a special relationship, a love for humans, and that he allows humans the authority to actually dictate the names of other animals, which shows us something very special about what it means to be human. But the Bible doesn't just say things about human dignity. The Bible actually demonstrates. In fact, I would even go outside the pages of the Bible and say history, as described in the Bible, shows us that God doesn't just say things about human value, he does something about human value. I want you to think about this for a moment. How do you know the value of anything? How do you know what things are worth? I have a lot of things in my home that are very valuable to me. You know, pictures my children have drawn for me, the video of my wedding, mementos from our first dates, my wife and I first date. These things are valuable to me. But if there's a fire in my house, all those things will melt or burn, and I'm getting my wife and my kids out of that house. They're valuable, but not that valuable. But if my wife or children are stuck in that house, you better believe I'm going to go into that house and try to save them, even if it costs me my own life. In other words, the bottom line is this. You know how valuable something is by what you're willing to pay for it. That leads me right to the cross. The cross, as a matter of history, says this, that God himself came down and paid a price for you and for me. You and I, and everyone you'd know, can know that they have an immeasurable value and dignity, because the immeasurable God paid an immeasurable price at Calvary to spend an immeasurable eternity with each one of us. You can know that you have dignity as a creature made in God's image, because God has paid the most infinite price for you and for me.